The Vortal didn't knock. They didn't need to. Ten-limbed shadows don't ask permission. They ripple through walls, phase through steel, and carve through skulls with bone blades honed in vacuum. The Galactic Empire had sent them to Earth with orders as simple as breath. Cut the apex predators. Burn the roots. One strike coordinated across continents. No speeches. No warnings. Just vanishing cities, gutted command posts, and leaders turned to red, missed mid-sentence. But that night in Minnesota, something cracked in the script. Colonel John Harlan, call sign Reaper, stood in the cold, sweat chilling under his shirt, half drunk on rot-gut bourbon and worse memories. The wind off the Mississippi stung like regret. He didn't remember falling asleep, but something woke him. Not sound, not light, a feeling, something watching him breathe. He reached under the cot for the knife before he fully opened his eyes. That old survival instinct, the one carved in jungles and deserts and kill houses across too many Black Ops decades, whispered, "It's here." He rolled, silent, smooth, and saw it, half-formed against the far wall. Blacker than shadow, 10 spindly limbs wrapped in glimmering armor that shimmered between this world and another. It saw him, and smiled, if a mouth full of needle teeth counted as a smile. Then it lunged. Reaper didn't think. He moved. Knife up, arm braced. It phased through the cot like smoke, but the steel bit flesh. Alien ichor hissed on the blade. The thing hissed back, shrill and broken, a sound like Data screaming. It wasn't supposed to get hurt. He drove his knee up into its midsection, twisted the knife, and rolled them both out the tent. Cold dirt met them with a slap. They crashed in the mud behind Camp Ripley's motor pool, tangled and bleeding and very much alive. Lights flared. Shouts rose. 3 more shadows slipped into the compound like Death's entourage. But Reaper was already on the radio. "Wake the bastards. Operation Boogeyman is live. Repeat, live." The line crackled with disbelief, then resolve. "Copy. Waking the devils." Within 6 minutes, the company was on its feet. Dutch Dragoon, Morales slid out of his bunk barefoot, hair tangled, shotgun in one hand, unlit cigar in the other. "You kidding me?" he muttered. "I was dreaming about steaks and strippers." Clark, none. Williams was already loading slugs into her rosary-etched pump action, murmuring Latin between each click. Tommy Dogmeat. Raines didn't say a word. He just smiled the way he had in Kandahar when the mortars came, like he missed the chaos. They were retired, decommissioned, written off. But monsters recognized their own. And this planet? It was theirs. The Vortal swept in fast, fluid like nightmare oil, knives drawn. They cut through the outer patrol like wind through wheat. But humans don't play by clean rules. Reaper dragged a fuel hose from Humvee, lit it with a flare, and turned the motor pool into a firestorm. Dragoon yelled, "Party's on!" and lit up the first assassin with incendiary buckshot, the shells punching holes through shimmer fields. The alien screamed. It screamed. They weren't supposed to scream. None blessed her rounds before she shot another Vortal in the face. Holy words mixing with the pop-pop-pop of 12-gauge truth. Dogmeat dropped from the rafters with a hunting axe and split a third down the middle. Ichor splattered across his face. He licked it, grinned wider. The 4th assassin hesitated. Just for a second. A breath. And in that breath, humanity won its first battle. Because in that breath, the Vortal realized Earth wasn't sleeping. It was waiting. The alien tried to phase out. Reaper caught it mid-jump, pulled it down with a grapple line, and slammed it into the frozen dirt. "Wrong damn planet," he growled, and drove a steel rod through its skull. Silence fell. The snow hissed against the embers. All 4 Vortal dead. Human casualties. 2 broken ribs, a torn shoulder, and Morales lost half an eyebrow. Reaper lit a cigarette with the burning edge of the rod, hand shaking only a little. "That all you got?" he muttered into the wind. A drone overhead blinked red. The Empire had been watching Earth fail. Instead, they watched Earth wake up. 20 miles south, in a farmhouse surrounded by frost, a mother sat with her daughter, listening to the static of the emergency broadcast band. At 3:17 a.m., the signal cleared for just one line. We see them. They bleed. Hold fast. In Beijing, a hacker's coffee spilled as she cracked the cloak field frequencies and dumped them on the global net with the tag #GhostButchers. In Nairobi, ex-mercenaries mobilized from dusty shanties with bootleg guns and old grudges. In Kiev, a priest grabbed his shotgun from the altar and kissed the crucifix. The Vortal hit 12 locations that night. Only 3 went dark. The rest? Chaos. Explosions. Resistance. Humans dragging monsters into alleys with garden tools. Farmers using drones to herd assassins into cornfields laced with old hunting traps. It wasn't war. Not yet. But it wasn't extermination either. Something was wrong with Earth. Terminally wrong. The galaxy had assumed rational extinction. What got was defiant survival. At dawn, Reaper stood on a ridge overlooking the smoking wreck of Camp Ripley. Clark stitched up his shoulder in silence, her fingers steady. Morales hummed Springsteen under his breath, while Dogmeat carved something into the ice. The air tasted like metal and adrenaline. "Think it's over?" Clark asked. No, Reaper looked up at the blood-orange sky. "It's just the overture." Dogmeat finished carving. A word burned into the frost. Boogeyman. The Empire wouldn't understand. Not yet. But they would. Soon. They sent assassins. Earth sent nightmares. The dead Vortal were strung up on rebar poles, frozen mid-snarl, their dark blood painting black petals in the snow beneath. It wasn't a warning. It was a promise. Reaper stood before them, shoulders squared, coat tattered at the seams. His breath fogged in the cold. Around him, the company warmed their hands over barrel fires and drank coffee thick enough to patch wounds. Satellite images confirmed it. 3 more strike teams inbound. Bigger this time. Not assassins. Shock units. The Empire had escalated. Reaper didn't flinch. "Good," he muttered, rolling his bad shoulder. "Means they're scared." Morales sharpened a machete with slow, deliberate strokes. "Scared's just a shade of stupid. You back anything into a corner, even a spook, it'll lash out." Clark knelt beside a field radio, her voice low as she relayed coordinates to a survivor group in Chicago. Her rosary hung like a talisman from her rifle, clinking softly in the wind. "Every city's waking up," she said without looking up. "We're not alone in this." Dogmeat had been quiet since the ambush at the Northern Pass. He sat against a ruined snowplow, eyes fixed on the skull he carried, cleaned, polished Vortal. He'd carved tally marks into it. 15 now. He didn't smile anymore. That morning, they got the first message from the stars. The voice came through on all frequencies. Cold, precise, filtered through layers of synthetic resonance. Species 319. You are in violation of the containment protocol. Surrender all weapons. Cease hostilities. Submit to cleansing. Reaper stared at the radio like it had insulted his ancestors. "Contain this," he muttered, flipping it off. "Pretty sure they just asked us to die polite," Morales said, chewing a matchstick. Clark stood. "They don't understand us." "They will," Dogmeat whispered. By dusk, the wind changed. They came without ships, orbital drops, silent and surgical. The snow didn't crunch under them. It dissolved. Vortal shock units, clad in hardened shimmer fields, stalked through the timberline like ghosts in a blood ritual. Where they passed, frost cracked, birds fled, and light bent wrong. Reaper smelled them before he saw them. Ozone and rot. He raised a fist, froze the team mid-motion. They waited. The first Vortal rounded the tree line, scanning, blades twitching. Reaper tossed a smoke flare into the snow. Everything turned red, and then all hell broke loose. Dragoon's flamethrower roared like a dragon's exhale, bathing the forward scouts in napalm. The Vortal shimmer fields glitched, sparking blue veins across their armor as they screeched and writhed in chemical fire. Clark opened with high-caliber slugs dipped in pig's blood and superstition. She whispered prayers between each shot, her face a war hymn. Dogmeat charged with nothing but a tomahawk and a hunting horn blasting Johnny Cash from his back. Reaper moved like a machine with a soul, precise, brutal, alive. He weaved through the chaos, eyes locked on the Vortal commander. Taller, thicker armor, dual blades like lightning bound in bone. They met in a clearing lit by burning trees. The Vortal lunged first, its limbs moving faster than thought. Reaper ducked, slid, countered with a fire axe, sparks singing off its armor. Your kind resists extinction. It rasped in perfect English, voice carved from glass. What? Reaper spat blood. Cause dying quiet ain't our style. He headbutted the alien hard enough to crack his own skull. It staggered. He drove the axe through its chest and screamed into its face. You came for a culling. Found a resurrection. The Vortal hissed once, tried to phase, and failed. Reaper twisted the axe. It collapsed, twitching, then went still. Around them, the battle raged. Dragoon went down, impaled through the gut, but he held the trigger, roasting his killer as they collapsed into each other, twin pyres in the snow. Clark covered his body, screaming scripture and pumping lead until her gun clicked dry. When the Vortal surged forward, she detonated the claymore, strapped to her chest. Fire consumed her, and took 6 of them with her. Dogmeat kept fighting, face bloodied, howling songs the dead had taught him in foxholes. Reaper watched it all, couldn't stop it, could only honor it. He limped toward the comms pack and dragged the radio from the fire-slick ground. There were no words left, just a frequency. He sent it out anyway. A single pulse. A call. 5 hours later, under a black sky split by falling stars, the galaxy listened. Earth hadn't surrendered. Earth had howled, and something answered. From the deserts, the mountains, the Rust Belt ghosts of forgotten wars, they came. Survivors. Madmen. Hunters and moonshine alchemists. Street kids with baseball bats. Hackers wielding drones cobbled from junkyards. 1,000 flavors of humanity, bleeding, limping, roaring. They weren't an army. They were a species. By morning, the Empire's signal was jammed by human music, pirate broadcasts, and 1,000 last laughs. Everywhere, Vortal found graffiti daubed in blood and spray paint. We're still here. Reaper stood at the edge of the battlefield, armor cracked, body wrecked. The flames painted him mythic, smoke curling like a crown. He looked at the sky, where the next wave would come, and smiled. Let them come. Earth didn't build saints. It built nightmares. The crater still smoked where Camp Ripley used to be. Ash clung to the ruined earth like frostbite, and the sky above it, gray, weeping, endless, reflected nothing. Reaper stood in the center, knees buckled but unbowed, dragging oxygen from the bitter air. His left arm hung limp. His ribs felt shattered. Somewhere behind his eyes, something buzzed, old shrapnel, or maybe just grief. Morales, Clark, Dogmeat, gone. He didn't bury them. There was no ground left to hold them. So he carried them instead. In his bones, in his breath, in the rage curling beneath his skin like fire waiting for a match. Above him, the last wave descended. Not Vortal, not assassins. No, the Empire had gotten serious. The sky split like a wound as the Executor-class flagship fell into low orbit. 5 miles of death and doctrine. A fortress meant to end species, not wars. It hummed with the sound of godless finality. The radio crackled. You are not winning. You are delaying inevitability. No more soldiers. No more warnings. Just extinction. Reaper laughed. Low, broken real. You finally figured it out, he said to no one. We don't win. We endure. He limped to the edge of the crater and saw them. Thousands of humans, gathered from the wreckage of continents. No uniforms. No rank. Just faces hardened by fire and haunted by what they'd already survived. Old men with hunting rifles. Children with slingshots and duct-taped armor. Paramedics, preachers, prisoners. A mosaic of defiance. The company was gone, but the idea survived. That was always the point. A girl approached him, maybe 16, soot on her cheeks, a burn across her collarbone. She held out a cracked radio. We got a plan, she said, voice steady. You want to hear it? He took the radio. The edges were sharp, biting into his palm. It felt like holding the future. Let's hear it. The plan was madness, which meant it would work. Every surviving technician, hacker, engineer, and mechanic in the region had been working on one last card. Not a weapon, a signal, a pulse. Humanity's answer to the Empire's silence. Reprogrammed from old Cold War kill switches, satellite arrays, particle collider coils, and broadcast towers held together by spit, wire, and prayer. One burst, one frequency, carried on every surviving channel. Not to kill, to corrupt. Not data, not virus. Culture, music, laughter, rage, sacrifice, sarcasm, sorrow. A symphony of survival. Humanity distilled. Reaper limped to the uplink station, half buried in debris, still smoldering, and climbed the broken tower with one good arm. They were watching. The Empire always watched. He gave them something to remember. He keyed the mic and let his voice carry. No surrender. No retreat. No more warnings. You want us gone? Burn the sky. Crush the mountains. Salt the oceans. You'll still find us dancing in the ashes. You try to erase us, but with a mistake that rewrites the book. He flipped the switch. The signal burst into the void like wildfire. Old Earth songs screamed across the stars. Gospel choirs, death metal, folk ballads, war chants, the sound of mother's lullaby, the laughter of children, the last words of dying soldiers, the silence after a scream. Unfiltered, uncurated, human. Orbit shook. Empire AIs began to degrade. Vortal implants sparked, their minds filled with noise and memory and feeling, a thing they were never built to hold. And above them all, the executor shuddered. The crew turned on each other, a mutiny of madness, beauty, and unbearable empathy. They didn't understand it, but they felt it, and that was enough to break them. The ship began to fall, not a controlled descent, a death spiral. Its mass scraped the edge of the atmosphere, trailing fire like a dying god. People screamed, then cheered, then wept. Reaper watched it descend, backlit by the rising sun. The first one in weeks. It hit the ocean with a sound that broke the horizon. Tidal waves surged. Silence followed. He fell to one knee, then stood. His voice barely rose above a whisper. Not the strongest, not the smartest, just the last to fall. The girl stepped beside him. What now? Reaper looked out over the ruined land, where survivors were already building fires, setting up tents, stringing lights from shattered tanks. He nodded. Now, we teach the stars what it means to bleed. The wind howled through the trees, and somewhere in that wrecked world, a radio played softly. Not orders, not surrender, just music,